All right. So every once in a while, I will get a comment that says something like, I'm just not ready for coaching. And it's unsolicited. It's not as though I'm, trying to sell a person on coaching. It's not as though I'm talking specifically about how coaching can help them individually. I'll just get a random DM or a comment that from someone who just says, I'm just not ready to be coached. It happened recently, actually, from a YouTube follower. And so I just wanted to offer some thoughts on if you wanted to be ready for coaching, but don't feel like you are yet, ways that you can actually get ready so that you can make the most of a coaching commitment, regardless of if it's with me or through some other leadership or career coach that you find online or in your local area. So, first of all, if you are finding yourself wanting to tell me or another coach, I'm just not ready for coaching, I think that's a good time to do some introspection. Is there a reason you feel the need to tell someone that you're not ready? Are you trying to say that you know that a leadership coach would really be beneficial, but you really want to make sure that you make the most of that opportunity? Are you trying to say that you know it helps other people, but for you, you need to be crystal clear on where you're going? All of those things might be legitimate reasons to not invest in a coach yet, to not step out in faith and put your time and your money into a coach. Because let's be honest, a financial commitment, a time commitment, with me, it's 6 months. And so you do want to make sure that you are ready personally to get the most out of that sort of commitment for yourself. So there's no judgment, there's no shade being thrown if you are the person who says, I am just not ready to be coached or I am not ready for a leadership coach. That is perfectly fine. But I want you to be ready in the event that you decide later that you are. So, what can you do? Let's get right into it. What can you do to be ready for a leadership coach when that time comes? Well, the good news is you can honestly start today because the very first thing that I want you to do is to understand yourself. You wouldn't believe how often people say to me, I don't even know what I'm good at. I don't even know what my skills are. It doesn't feel like I'm using my best skills. It doesn't feel like I'm using what I'm best at in my work every single day. But if I had to put my finger on it, I don't know that I could. It's completely common. People say it all the time. But that is a tough place to start coaching from. And so, if you're considering a leadership coach at some time in the future, understanding yourself is really the first thing you need to do. So, what are some ways that you can do that? Well, to be honest, there are lots of complex ways that you can better understand your identity. You can invest a bunch of money into different assessments that tell you scores on different aspects of your personality. But if you're focused on your career, and even more so, if you're focused on leadership, then you can find out your leadership attributes and what is dominant within you in less than 5 minutes. So I have a link down below where you can determine your dominant leadership attribute. And if you don't know yourself, you're not sure what you're good at, and you're not sure where you lean, that is a fantastic place to start. So go ahead, look in the links below and find your dominant leadership attribute. Go ahead and take the quiz. It will only take you a couple of minutes. And the really great thing about understanding your dominant leadership attribute is that it shows you the lens that you see the world through. So it's different from, say, your leadership style, because to be successful, spoiler alert, you're going to have to shift your style over time depending on the people you're working with, the situations you're in. Your style isn't always going to be there. Your attributes, though, those will follow you for the long term. Those will not shift regardless of where you're at. So it helps you understand it yourself at a deeper level. Now, for example, if you know that you are an achievement focused leader, it might help you to validate that, hey, those focus that you have, that the discussions that you're having with your team and your peers around the KPI benchmarks, for example, your focus on smashing those things is Completely validated. That is a great attribute for a leader is to be focused on achievement. But it could also help you see that your drive isn't something that's going to jive with every single person. It can help you find success, but it can also show you where you might need to kind of ebb and flow with other people who don't necessarily fall on that same wavelength. And that is all in that dominant leadership attribute quiz. It can really help you understand how it's benefiting you and where you might find some gaps that you're going to want to bridge over in time. And that is something that we absolutely work through in coaching to help you make the most of those attributes without alienating other people or groups, teams, bosses, even as you are working through your coaching cycle. Okay, number two, after you start to understand yourself a little bit better, you can develop more self awareness. So, coaching really relies on your ability to share what you're going through, be vulnerable, be open to making some changes. And a leadership coach is going to help you uncover the blind spots that you have so that you can bridge over those gaps. However, for right now, if again you're not ready to take that step yet, you can start to develop your self awareness simply by noticing what's working well for you, noticing what maybe isn't working so well for you. So, for example, if you are speaking in a team meeting, whether it's with your direct reports or with your peers, are they listening to you? Are they taking your suggestions? Are they talking over you? If you're working with your boss, say in a one on one, or again in those bigger group meetings, are they taking your ideas or even considering them? Or are they just dismissing them? How's your confidence feeling? Are you able to tackle projects and problems with authority? Or are you really timid and not sure where to start? All of those things might elicit different thoughts, different scenarios, different circumstances. And when you are developing your self awareness, I want you to get in the habit of noticing in the moment and maybe journaling about it afterwards. Now, people get really into why does this happen? Why is it my tendency to get defensive when someone jumps in and builds on what I was saying? Why is it that I cut people off when we're having a conversation? And they can go and start looking backwards. Therapy looks backwards. Coaching doesn't look backwards. Coaching looks forwards. And so, as you're doing this, I want you to be cognizant of there is a root cause, or probably several root causes, for what you're becoming aware of. However, that doesn't necessarily make it your responsibility in this moment to make an immediate change. Right now, we're just trying to understand where you're at and what's going well. And it would be in coaching that you start to make the adjustments that are going to get you the best success. For some people who I would say are a little more top of the class, they want to be really invested even in this pre work type of a stage, then doing something to get really deep into what's going on now and how can we use this for the future would be to go through the Aligned Ambitions Masters class. So that is a 1 hour workshop style masterclass that I have. Again, you can find that linked below. It's totally free for you to take and figure out for yourself what it would look like and feel like to hit your goals over your whole life. We talk a little bit about reflecting back on our future in Aligned Ambitions. And it's a really great way to get your mind centered around what's truly important to you. You get this snapshot of what you want your golden years to look like. And then you get a frame by frame movie of how your whole life can build up to that moment. Now, this is something, like I said, that's for kind of the overachievers that want to work through this self awareness at a different level. It is totally okay and will prepare you for coaching if you just sort of notice and be more present in your here and now. But if you really want to get to the point where your personal leadership is directed at where you are going, I can't encourage you enough to take advantage of this totally free masterclass and put together your aligned ambitions. Next, this is the final recommendation I have for you. Like I said, super easy, just getting prepared for potential coaching in the future. And that would be to start reading. Now, I know that that can be overwhelming, but I want to oversimplify it in the beginning. We aren't going to give you a specific book list that you have to read starting right now. I don't have a specific curriculum that you have to get through these 7 books in order to be ready for coaching. It's not like that. There is more books on leadership than I can even count. I did curate some of my favorites, so you can get the library in the links below as well. And those will give you some great options for personal leadership if you are an individual contributor and want to lead yourself and influence those around you well. And you can also get the list for people leaders as well if you are leading a team or a part of some sort of management team, either at work or in your community. So I don't want to tell you where to start. I want you to find one that speaks to you. Find books that speak to your strengths and your talents. Choose ones that are going to help you bridge gaps that you're noticing you have as you work through your self awareness. If you're not making consistent deposits into your brain, digging into really any book on leadership is going to just really take you exponentially further than you are right now, especially if you're looking at taking on coaching in the future. Now, I don't want indecision to cause inaction. And so if you are stuck on what is the right book to start with, I'm going to recommend specifically How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is one of my favorite leadership books. It's by Dale Carnegie. It is quite nearly 100 years old, so it is very tried and true. It's also a little bit more of a beginner's read on leadership and influence because it gives a lot of examples of dinner parties and conversations with friends and children and things that we all just run into every single day. You don't have to be a CEO to really resonate with how to win friends and influence people. It's a great book for everyone. It's also just a little bit more passive. So you can just sort of let the information wash over you and see yourself in a lot of the examples that it gives, and then really take the next step once you're in coaching. If you feel like you've already kind of got that piece down, you know the beginning steps of influencing people and having an impact on your friends, your family, your coworkers. Again, if you want to take that advanced step before you move into coaching, then I'm going to suggest High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. This one is great because it takes a passive learning that you had in how to win friends and influence people, and it takes it to a more active approach. And it gives you actual action items at the end of every single chapter that you can take deliberate action in. All right. So I don't know if you know this, but when you take action in your learning, you retain up to 95% of what you learned, which is exponentially more than what you get when you have passive learning. So, High Performance Habits is a great book because it gives the habits of some of these really high ranking CEOs, business leaders, community leaders that we can all learn from. But it does it in a way that allows you to take action in your own life. All right, so what are those 3 things again? Just to recap really quickly. We are going to understand yourself. There are a ton of ways to do this, but if you're looking for one really simple way, you can determine your dominant leadership attribute in just a couple of minutes. And that's going to be something that sticks with you for your entire career. Number 2, you are going to develop self awareness. You can do this one of 2 ways. You can do that by being aware of the circumstances you're in and how you are impacting them, Or you can double down on that by really reflecting back on your future with aligned ambitions through that masterclass. And then number three, you're going to start reading. And if this is new for you and you haven't been reading in the past, you are going to pick any leadership book that speaks to you. If you need a recommendation, How to Win Friends and Influence People is a great one. Or you can take it to the next level by reading High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard. So, once you've done those three things, what is this going to do for you? Well, this work is going to be foundational in a coaching relationship or even a mentorship, honestly. And you having a clear sense of your talents and your natural tendencies will help you build skills on those things. You'll have this awareness of your habits so that you are more coachable for whatever coach that you work with. You'll be less defensive of your blind spots and more able to make change quickly. And what does that mean? It means you'll see results faster and bigger than you originally imagined. So, you're already developing this new habit of investing in yourself when you go through these first three steps, and you will double down on it when you get into coaching. Now, if you start developing these habits today, you could be ready to work with a coach in honestly a matter of weeks. And being ready to start coaching in, say, February means that if you're working with me, 6 months from February puts you at the 4th of July fireworks without checking your phone, without being stressed that taking that extra day off meant that you're behind on something, without looking for that last minute email because you're so proactive and confident in your work. You could actually be at those festivities with the same carefree attitude that you had when you were a kid, all because you invested in yourself now. Okay, if you got this far and you're kind of reading all these things and thinking, I'm beyond that, I'm past those steps, but you're still questioning if you're ready for leadership coaching, then I have to kind of put my coach hat on for a second and say, you might just need to be courageous. You might just need to remind yourself that you can make this transformation. You can be the leader in your individual work, in your community, and by leading people in your organization. If you invest the time and the commitment to yourself for even just 6 months, you can be supported in getting there too. So, I'm going to put the link for a conversation around that. If that's something that maybe you just need a little more encouragement around the possibilities of coaching. I hope this was helpful for you, whether you are ready to start coaching now, considering it for the future, or maybe just wanting to do your own little personal coaching for yourself. These three steps are going to be a great way to get you there. All right.